So thank you all for being here. I'm Rick Ginsberg. I'm the Dean of the School of Education and Human Sciences at KU, and also the founder of the Center for Reimagining Education that is focusing a good bit on bringing AI into teaching and learning in K-12 schools. And so this particular conference has a lot of interest for me as well. This is our 18th year of doing strategies for educational improvement free conference for educators, teachers and leaders and faculty members and others in a shared partnership with our friends at Kansas State Department of Education. Indeed, Commissioner Watson always wants to come here and talk to you all, so he'll be here at noon, at lunchtime to share a few words with you. I do want to start by saying that no conference ever happens unless you have a lot of great staff members that put time and energy into putting this all together. And I'm not going to list and mention them all. They're out there anyway, drinking coffee and eating and not paying any attention. But let's give them all a round of applause for the great work that they've done in putting these together. So over 18 years, we've been doing this conference. This is the first time that for 2 years in a row, we're focusing on the exact same topic, and that is artificial intelligence. I'm guessing that there's a lot of users out here in our audience. By a show of hands, how many of you are active users of AI? That's pretty good. I'm wondering how many of you are using it for helping you prepare lessons and assessments, and how many of you are have inculcated it directly into your teaching? A little bit smaller number. More and more of you will be doing that. How many of you are allowing the students to use it in their work? That can be a scary proposition. We'll be talking a bit about connections with students, and I'm sure lots of other things as well. So why the focus on AI? Why? Why are we doing this 2 years in a row? I know this will be hard to believe because I'm only 30 years old, but this is my 47th year working in education after a career before that in business. And I started working in teaching and working in schools in 1978 in Chicago, where I worked for a Teacher Corps program across several schools. And I mention that not to tell you how old I am, but I want to emphasize that there's never been anything like AI that's come into effect what we're doing. I mean, we had television, and I remember back in the day they would roll the televisions into. We have some colleagues here from New Mexico that have been around for a few years. They may remember that, and others, they would roll Mr. Science into the room, and we would all laugh and throw spitballs at it. But it didn't really impact what we're doing very much. Computers, we all have our laptops with us. But computers somehow are on the periphery of what we do in education. It has never really affected the core. And my God, this drives me crazy, and maybe some of you disagree with me. We have school districts banning phones. I mean, banning phones. These little machines that are more powerful than all the computers we had when we put men on the moon, when NASA put men on the moon, and we don't want teachers and kids figuring out how to use it because it might be a disruption or something like that. Geez, I have my wife's notebooks from when she was in school, and she didn't have an iPhone to disrupt things with, but she drew flowers on everything because school was boring to her. So why aren't we learning how to use these little computers that we have? Believe me, there's been nothing else like AI before, and the potential it has to truly transform both teaching and teacher work is pretty remarkable. And I think it's going to change student learning as we know it as well. It has the ability to personalize teaching and learning for students in ways I think in the past we've only dreamed about. And it likely will mean that the roles for teachers are going to have to change. And change is hard, and we're all going to push back. I don't know how many times I've been working with schools, and we get around a lot of teachers, and they'll say, yeah, I understand that this is important, but I only got like 3 or 4 more years. So please don't ask me to do anything new. You've all heard that, right? Change is hard. Change is really hard. Today, the conference will focus on how AI can help you a bunch of short talks. The way we set it up, the talks will all be 10 minutes, and we're going to hold them to that. Then we'll have 5 minutes for questions from the audience. Then we have some questions. We want you all to talk amongst yourselves at your tables, what you've learned, and talk a little bit about what you might be able to take from the talks that we've had. And we've got a bunch of experts. This year, for the first time, I think all except for one are associated with KU, and the one that's not is indirectly associated with us. It's a student in a school out in California, where somebody that is at KU, that's a family member. But I think you're going to get a lot of interesting insights from the people that we have speaking. The other one that's not from KU is a teacher in one of the school districts that we work with, and she's wonderful, and she wrote my theme song, and I'll let her talk about that. I'm sorry, AI wrote my theme song. But she's working in one of the schools we're working with through the center that I mentioned. But you're going to hear about building student and teacher relations, and you're going to hear about helping teachers learn how to customize chatbots and support their work. And we're going to hear about how AI can be a student's ally from our student who's going to be with us on Zoom from California. And we're going to hear a bit about why AI will require you to step up and step out, and in Heather's words, to be brave. And so I think you'll all find this rather useful and exciting. And then at lunch, as I mentioned, we'll have Commissioner Watson here to talk with us. And then this afternoon, we've got 4 different sessions. They're 1 hour each, so there'll be 2 in the first hour and 2 in the second hour, all from experts that we have on campus that will share with you some kind of hands-on opportunities and share some AI tools that are out there that you might find useful. I want to end this little introduction with a few final thoughts because I've got the mic in 5 minutes. And my colleagues at the university said, oh God, Rick's 5 minutes is a half an hour. I promise 5 minutes. AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue to pervade our lives in multiple ways. I bought a new car about a couple months ago, a Hyundai Sonata. And my car is talking to me all the time. It's unbelievable what these things can do now. I mean, and it's going to, this technology is going to be behind so much of what we find comes to us moving forward. And if we educators want to frame our AI future, we have to take the initiative. Because if we don't, we're going to get these programs from businesses that don't know the work, that are going to share their interests, which are giving you technology so they can make a lot of money. And I'm suggesting that there's nothing necessarily wrong with those things, but we should frame what it is that we want. For example, if we talk about literacy, we have some literacy experts here. Trina, shake your hand. When we talk about literacy, it's time to broaden the concept just beyond raising test scores, which honestly is what literacy is all about right now. The science of reading, whatever you might think about that, is all geared towards raising the 3rd or 4th grade test scores. That's what it's all about. That's not really what literacy is. AI demands that we have to reconsider our whole conception of what literacy is. For example, we probably want to have as a part of literacy how we access information. That's an literacy that all of us need to get better at. How do you get the best information? How do you get best content? How do you get the best data? How do we get what we want and we need? And that's different than it was from opening up the Encyclopedia Britannica or even doing a Google search just a couple of years ago. True literacy should include how to prompt, and I don't like the term prompt engineering for educators because you're not engineers and you don't go behind whatever AI tool that you use, bot that you use, and you make adjustments. I look at educators as prompt cultivators. We cultivate learning. We cultivate kids' minds, and that's what we all have to learn how to do, is to use prompts to cultivate what it is that we need. AI ethical literacy is really important. What's allowable and what is it that you have to avoid? I mean, we're all worried about cheating. I understand that. It is easier to cheat. Guess what? Kids have always cheated. Now they can do it better. Let's figure out ways to set the ethical standards and guidelines that we need for the use of AI. There's other environmental issues that are ethically a part of this that I think we need to talk about. AI's power suggests that comprehension as we know it should move beyond just the written word. Our expert, Trina Spencer here from Juniper Gardens, and again, I keep calling Trina out, she's got remarkable work on storytelling as the base for comprehension, and you should all pay attention to that. But what I'm suggesting here, in addition to that, is that we have to move beyond comprehension of just being the written word. Because guess what? Young people today don't get their information that much from the written word. Talk to any college faculty member, they'll tell you the kids aren't reading anymore. Put it on a podcast, they'll listen to it. Think about Notebook LM if you haven't used that. You all go to videos and YouTubes. So is comprehension from the written word the same as comprehension from when you just listen to it or you look at it? I submit probably some shared elements and some things that are rather different. That should become a part of what we think about with literacy, and that all is driven by this great new technology that's coming out. And here's the hard part. We're going to need to set out the components of AI literacy elements for our schools, for our teachers, and for our students. What's it going to mean to be AI literate? Sean, you'll be with Sean Smith this afternoon. He's a part of a center that has put out a document about that, and others are doing the same. That's going to be on the forefront in all schools in the not too distant future. And finally, not only is AI literacy needed, but schools need to develop their AI readiness frameworks. I mean, how are we going to bring this into our work? Let's not block it like we've blocked so many things in the past. How do we pave the way for full adoption of AI? This is going to need to be guided by principles that will include things like learning to be resilient. And when people come after you, come back and say, hey, this is why this is important. You're going to learn how to be adaptable. You're going to learn how to work in communities together to figure out how to use this. In our center, we think that novices should be training novices. Experts come, go, and leave you alone. We like the idea of people working in communities and a willingness to truly transform what you do. And that's the hardest part, I think. Frameworks are being developed. Believe me, you're all going to be talking about this in the not too distant future. The point is this. There's a lot of work ahead of us. And here's a line I wish I had come up with, but it was from a colleague of mine who may have stolen it from somebody else. But the AI that is available today is the dumbest it's ever going to be in our lifetime. It's going to get better and better and better. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. There's a lot of changes ahead of us. Let's get started. Welcome to our conference today. Thank you. Our first speaker is one of my colleagues, Dr. Maggie Mosher. Maggie truly is one of the internationally recognized leaders in educational innovation involving AI. I know she travels all across the United States and around the world. She was just telling me about some of the places that she's been to provide insight to educators and others about AI tools and how to use AI and what works and what doesn't work. In the center that we have, Maggie is one of our chief consultants and partners, and she works with the schools. And one of the schools lovingly labeled her, am I taking away your, they refer to her as the fire hydrant. Because she was going to come, you all know what fire hydrants are. You open it up and water comes spewing out. Well, you're going to get information about AI come spewing out of Maggie. And she is just terrific and thoughtful. And there's a long bit of work here I can talk about that I'm not sure you need to hear, just to know that you've got one of the best in the entire world here sharing with you information about AI innovation, and AI tools. Dr. Maggie Mosher.
So, as Rick said, AI used to be really stupid and it's getting really smart. We're going to be talking about how to not let it get smarter than we are. But also, as Rick said, there's a lot of relationships that we want to make sure we maintain and continue with our students. And I don't know if there is a slide, but if there is a slide coming up, it's got a lot of information. Ignore it. It's just because I speak so quickly that you might miss something and the slide might show up. I don't know if it's on here. If I just click. Oh, perfect. There's a clicker and everything.
We can do this.
I didn't even see it there. Thank you. Maybe. If it's not connected, I can talk with you without it, but it gives you a few faces, and sometimes faces are helpful to have.
We'll find out and we will get it done.
Just click at the next one. We'll let it do
We
its
will get it
thing.
done.
No worries. And if not, it has a QR code that might help you. But what you didn't hear in that intro is how relationships really gave me the opportunities that I've had in my life to be able to go around the world and speak on AI. It was relationships and AI. It wasn't just relationships. I grew up outside of the Navajo Nation, going to school in a little place called Gallup, New Mexico, in one of the areas with the second highest illiteracy rate in the nation. We also decided, I received special education services. You'll realize for multiple disabilities, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so my body shakes when I'm excited, even if I'm not nervous, it's just excited. And I speak really fast because I have ADHD, but I also was gifted. And so they put me on the reservation into a classroom and gave me a computer. And that was about it. There wasn't any like major special education back then. It was move them out of the room and stick them in a computer. I'm going to talk about these two kids, so I just wanted you to have a picture to give you. So when I was growing up, it was just stick them in a room with a computer, essentially. But I thrived on collaboration and purpose, not on being put in a room with a computer. I really needed people and I needed relationships to learn. So what I ended up doing is in that little room with a computer around the time of Y2K, I met Alice. And Alice, I don't know if anybody here used Alice back then, 2000 or ever after. Alice essentially stands for Artificial Linguistic Internet Computer Entity. What Alice did for me that I really needed in that little room was it took my words that go so fast and my mind that can't stop, and it allowed me to synthesize things. It was some of the first AI. Essentially, it was a partner I could talk to. It was super glitchy and really challenging to work with. And again, it was stupid then, even stupider than we are now, but it really was life-changing for me. That one technology actually helped me to be able to say to a language and literary acquisition specialist and to an ophthalmologist what I knew in a way that made sense to them so that they would take me seriously as a high schooler. And that opportunity then led me to win the International Science Fair and second place, and to be able to go to the Golden Plate Awards and be on a panel for technology as an 11th grader with George Lucas. So it was an amazing opportunity. A little girl from a reservation got that opportunity because of AI, not just because of the relationships I had. It gave me new relationships. AI didn't replace connections, it enabled them for me. So I've spent the last 24 years teaching special education and about the last 15, 20 going and training teachers on how to teach. A lot of my teaching is collaboration. I've gotten the opportunity with a few of you in this room to collaborate and team teach. But most of what I do is trying to answer the question that all of us teachers have. How do we give more students access to tools that make learning meaningful and help them to have a voice? Because I grew up in a place where our encyclopedias said we had yet to have a man on the moon. They were that old. But I made it all the way to being a technology speaker with George Lucas. So what I'm going to show you a little bit today, and I put these two pictures up here. I got permission and consent from both the students and their parents to tell you their stories, but I forgot to put a checkbox for their pictures. So I got permission from the parents of these two to give you a picture. Why? I think because you need to just see a picture, or permission from, we have consent for their pictures. Because you need a picture to keep a relationship. That is one of AI's biggest problems, is it's not a person. These are people. It's a computer, it's intelligent, but we can never treat it like a person. Citing AI has changed. In the initial citations of AI, we used to treat it like a conversation with another person, which is crazy. Now, the only reason we did is because you could never go back and get the same information. So it was It was never able to be traceable. Now we know how to cite it differently, and it's not cited as a person, but we need to help, as Rick said, make sure safeguards are in place when we're allowing students to be transformed through AI. We also need to make sure students understand the AI, that we use equitable AI with good resources behind it, and that we help students to know that the voice in that AI is biased. It's essentially trained by the people who are on the internet to a degree. And there are people from the Dene culture who aren't on the internet. So a lot of things that I specifically would want in AI aren't there. So I'm having to put them in. So being aware of that. I'm going to first introduce you to this fifth grader with Down syndrome. I actually was in a class with her, team teaching with her math teacher. And I was explaining to the class how I, in their lesson plan, created a summary of their lesson plan and then made it at second grade reading level, because I wanted to make sure I used as few words as possible, because I am super wordy. I like to talk. And so I took Magic School AI, just a chatbot on it, took what I was going to present to the class, put it into the summarizer and then the leveler, and gave me specific words in a summary that made it so that I could make sure I wasn't using too many words. Essentially, I just showed the students this tool. The next day I came into the classroom and the student is sitting with the teacher up at the desk telling her, "I don't need your guided notes anymore." And I was like, uh-oh, what's she gonna say? Because one of the kids, as they walked out of the room, told another student, "She just taught us how to cheat." I was like, no, I did not. But she said, "I don't need your guided notes anymore. Last night, I took the handout you gave me and I put it in Magic School and it summarized it for me and I put it at a first grade level. So I know everything now." It's like, okay. In that same group, there was another student working with her who said, as a side note, guess what she also used? I said, "What?" "You taught us about Goblin tools." Well, she used Goblin tools to take her presentation that they had made in guided reading groups, to take her presentation and make it less bossy. So essentially, Goblin tools will formalize your words. I was like, I didn't even know she was that bossy, but I guess everybody in the peer group did. So that specific tool in the hands of this student made her really be able to have independence, to be able to do the tasks that are just timely for teachers. This second student is essentially autism level 1 with high anxiety. What she specifically used AI for is there's this AI called Boodlebox where you can get on and talk to other students in your classroom about homework. And the chatbot will interact with you as well. I, as a teacher, can put in only my information, so the chatbot can't get any additional information. So it can't tell you wrong answers, but it also tell you the answer. So she used Boodlebox to do that. And they were having this conversation, and she used a specific app that Heather's actually going to talk about in her presentation today, Suno, to take Macbeth and make it into a song. And her teacher was so impressed by the song, she chose to show the whole students about Macbeth that the teacher asked if she could use it as the exemplar. The student said, yes, but AI was wrong. It missed 2 really important themes. So even students realizing, what does it know? What doesn't it know? What can I add to it? How can it help me to really be able to build relationships with other students? In these stories, AI really shifted us as educators from givers of knowledge to guides in knowledge and application. As opposed to just giving that specific word, it helped each of them to apply it. It also gave these students voice, autonomy, and confidence. It increased those meaningful human interactions. It didn't take them away. Am I still afraid of AI? Yes, I train on it and it scares me all the time, because by the time I'm done with this, all of the apps that I have up there will have changed in some way. That's how quick AI is going. Generative AI makes me super nervous, but that's why we have to train our students on using it effectively and not letting it take away from relationships. I wanted to thank Rick and the School of Education for having me here today, and especially to let you know, as educators, I'm impressed that you're in this room with us. I'm impressed that you care enough to get to know these AI tools. I gave you a lot up there. I don't expect you to use these. I just wanted you to know that that's how many tools in this in the case of a week of training, these students already started using it and they have disabilities. That's the transformation possibilities out there. I also wanted to move into table conversations that I think we're going to have. And in these table conversations, I want to leave you with 2 specific questions. I really want you to think about which of the students could shine if they're given these AI tools, like the ones I just discussed. We'll put back those tools so you can kind of see what they do and why they might shine. Or you can choose which question you want to talk about. What's one thing you remembered learning from a K through 12 teacher and what made it memorable? I can remember my English teacher having us put on a play on Much Ado About Nothing. And I will never forget some of the lines in that play because we did something meaningful for me. I loved acting it out. How can AI help you to do these meaningful things within the classroom? And how can it help you make sure that we build relationships? Because essentially, we've all had phones and we've seen how phones can cause anxiety, depression if they're used too much. AI can do the same thing if we don't use it correctly. Thank you. Oh, Q&A. Questions and answers. And again, apologies for how quickly I go. I actually have these glasses on my head. They're Meta glasses and they tell me to slow down because I do talk so fast. So it literally is just saying, slow down. You're going too quickly when I'm going too quickly. So if you're wondering why I have glasses on my head, if anybody wants to play with these later, it essentially will do anything that's on your phone for you. It'll tell me a timer. It'll tell me anything that's on my phone in my ear. So any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Is it on? Yes. So you kind of alluded to it, but do you have any experiences with the culture problem with AI?
Yeah.
You know, obviously Asian cultures aren't, like the US culture. We could go to Republicans and Democrats, but we won't go there. But, there's significantly culture differences. And in my experience, AI doesn't really get at that.
It doesn't. I would say 100% you're true. That is one of the important biases you actually have to teach students. The reason being, so for example, Native American, a lot of people will put us all together in the same, I'm just part Native American, but they'll put us all together in the same group. We are very different. The Dene are very different than the Acoma, the Zuni, the Laguna, the Hopi. We have very different belief systems. We have very different things that we treasure. We have different faiths. So putting us all in one group is problematic. AI does a lot of grouping like that, like all Asians are one group to AI. It also has a lot of people who don't have voices. Like I wish every storyteller would get on and add their voice to AI so it would have those storytelling voices. I will tell you, AI there's a chatbot that is an AI human detector, I think is what it's called, but essentially it has been trained only by storytellers, and I like it a lot more because the output is more of a story and relational. But AI is not culturally correct, and the only way we can solve that is by getting on there and training ChatGPT with answers that are culturally appropriate to us and getting more people's voices out there.
I'm not sure you want to go here, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. Do you see that, states are looking at legislation dealing with AI. The federal government is basically saying right now, hey, maybe we shouldn't do anything for 10 years. So just thoughts.
Yeah, so I was a speaker at AI4 this past August, and what I was speaking on was kind of what we have as guidelines and frameworks for students currently, and there weren't a lot. There were only 5 major frameworks for AI for students, and that was it. And while I was in that conference, someone came up to me from Hong Kong and said, guess what? We have chosen this specific set of rules. And then I was talking to someone from Canada who said, our university just got told that we are now following a set of AI regulations that it goes for the whole European Union. So essentially, everybody's putting in specific regulations. That's why it's a really tricky time. It's kind of, I kind of associate it to, it's kind of like we have this powerful tool and the US government hasn't put many regulations on it right now. A lot of other countries have, and some countries don't plan on putting regulations on it. some in Asia, don't plan on regulating it. And that's scary because it needs regulations. So what I would say is you, as the classroom teacher, and if there are any principals and district leaders in this room, you have to set those regulations and make sure that they are meaningful, because we don't want kids. There are chatbots you can make that only go to your information. Like I created a chatbot to answer questions after I have presentations, and I only put in 101. Now it has 101 presentations on AI in it, and it will never answer a question except from my presentations. It never goes to the internet to grab information. We need to do safeguards like that. I don't recommend students using AI under a certain age because they don't have the brain development to say, this is not a person that I'm talking to. So we have to be very careful, just like everything, any tool we present to a student. We can't let technology happen for technology's sake, but in order to transform using it, we have to be the person to rule that and guide that. Okay. I think we're ready for table talks, right? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our second presentation. These used to be called TED Talks. We've now changed that name to Rick Talks. So if anybody wants to join us in the future, our next speaker is a friend who's spent the good part of his career at the University of Central Florida, Trey Vasquez. He recently came to KU as one of the chief operating officers of the Achievement and Assessment Institute. He also holds a tenured position as a professor in special education. Trey has spent a career actually focusing AI, and again, is one of the leaders in our country on bringing AI into classrooms, specifically many times around for students with disabilities and in STEM content areas. And Trey is going to share something really exciting about personalizing chatbots. So Trey Vasquez, everyone.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Yep. Thanks, everyone. I'm really excited. I'm coming after Maggie because she gave you a lot of great foundational information about different apps out there to work on LLMs. Let me tell you why I got into this first and then shifted into the chatbot LLM, ChatGPT. My educational career / tech early adoption has been fraught with lots of errors, and that has been a catalyst for new ideas, new things. And these kids up on the screen are my two boys that challenged me. But before I had kids, I was at a little doc program in Utah, and I had this brilliant idea back in 2000 to try to deliver reading instruction online to kids in inner city Philadelphia and rural Montana. And no one had done that before, especially with kids with disabilities. And so I said, well, let's go ahead and make some connections. I talked to some wonderful principals. They said, yeah, sure, you can take, a handful of students and figure this out. I had this program called Breeze. It was adopted later on by Adobe Connect, and you probably have heard of Adobe. But before Adobe took it over, we went into inner city Philadelphia. I tried to log on to their dial-up internet, and we proceeded to knock down the entire server of the entire district. I said, oh, please, God, help me, because this is my dissertation. And if I don't have something, they're not going to let me graduate. Fortunately, we were able to figure out some of the little technical issues that was causing the breakdown. And we were able to do this. And we actually had some really great outcomes. And now, every day in college, you probably see kids in high school and college using places like Canvas or some other online platform. I am so happy that it's so much better now, because I had concerns about video quality, audio quality. What happens if a kid's slouching in the chair? There's so many challenges, right? Well, then fast forward 10 years. I had these great little kids, and I'm a tech professor. So at UCF, I have access to simulators, VR, AR, all of these really great tech. Obviously, I bring my children into the lab all the time, and they have voice activated everything. Please do this and do this. And then kindergarten comes around. And, in kindergarten, you do this pre-test, kind of places you into different curricular areas. I said, No sweat. My kid's been around computers his whole life. We get there and I look at the computer and I said, oh, there's a mouse. My kid hasn't used a mouse because everything's touchscreen and voice activated. And I had a bit of a panic attack as a technology professor. I was like, oh my God, I totally failed. What am I going to do? So I sit Quinn down and he goes, what's that? I said, that's a mouse. He says, well, what's that do? And he's like, it moves the cursor. Well, can't I just touch the screen? I was like, unfortunately, this computer's old and you can't do that. And he's like, okay, well, how do I use it? I says, I'm going to give you a quick lesson. You move it up and down, left and right, and it moves a cursor. And what does he do? He takes the mouse and he goes up in the air, down, left and right. And I says, Daddy gave you inappropriate instructions. You have to roll it onto the desk, left, right, up and down. And he goes, Dad, that's silly. I says, it is, but you have to do that in order to move the mouse. He's like, no problem. So I leave the room because, they schlep you out of the room as soon as you sit your kid down. And I'm just panicking. I'm like, is he going to even be able to answer question 1? Finally, I pick him up after the test is over. I said, how'd it go? He's like, hey, it was easy. I go to the teacher's like, did he actually answer anything? And she said, oh yeah, he was one of the first ones finished. It's like, thank God. So that's kind of my catalyst into this. Fast forward another 5 more years. My team and I have been working around AI, large language models, machine learning in our lab for about 15 years at that point. Our earliest creations were around recognizing voices and text, trying to formulate similar things that you deal with every day in terms of your texting and it has word prediction, or if you have that little squiggly line, autocorrect happens and you go, I hit send too soon. Well, it's gotten better over the years, right? It's still not perfect. Things have gotten better around the language translation, meaning that I can go to a Google Translate and navigate probably 130 different languages immediately, which is really great. Is it perfect? Is it the right dialogue? No. But it's something better than nothing. And it's just going to get better. As we said, it's the stupidest it's going to be today. And so fast forward, my kids are building our first supercomputer in our lab. And this is something that allows us to run large language models at 100 billion parameters per minute, which back in 3 or 4 years ago was really revolutionary. Now we're in the terabyte level. And so I had them coming in. I'm teaching them how to build computers, one, because I built computers all the time at home and I knew that they could do it and I needed more hands. 2, I wanted them to kind of understand what machine learning was, what large language models could do for them in the future. So then my son, the oldest, is in a journalism class. And he said, I've got an assignment, Dad. I've got to write a 500-word essay around how the Indian Lagoon has been damaged by overfishing and all the pollution and how we're restoring it right now. And what are the different types of research involved? What are the different types of interventions involved? And I said, great. He says, and I want to use ChatGPT. And this was 2.5 years ago. So it was like iteration 2.0. And I said, fine, let's try it. He put something together. His teacher says, you didn't write that. I said, what do you mean I didn't write that? I did a lot of work to get this information. I said, but I did use, an LLM. And that kind of started a long conversation with the school district about the appropriate use of LLMs, whether they could use it at all. At that point, news broke across the world. School districts started saying, we ban it, or some of them were slightly unsure what to do. And we also landed this really great national center called CITL. And a lot of my colleagues across the country were grappling with this conversation about what is appropriate use, what is not appropriate use. And the answer is it all depends on the situation. And we have to have these conversations with each other. But before you get to those conversations, you have to play. And so I'm here to show you how to play. Now, some of you have used ChatGPT in the past? Give me hands if you at least logged on once. Okay, good. Now, the way ChatGPT was trained was with a lot of content from the internet. And we all know how great the internet is, right? And quality information. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's getting better, but you have the opportunity to customize it so that you feed it the right information so that you are relatively certain that you're taking out one of the errors out of that loop, that generative loop. To do this is quite easy. As you enter your ChatGPT, you go to your settings, My GPT, and create it. And then there's two options. You can be an advanced user or you can be a novice user. In the novice user, you just use this create tab up here. And I created a quick little prompt. I said, I will be creating lessons and activities for my class. I want to make sure that I adhere to Kansas State educational standards. Please scrape data, and I gave it a website from the Kansas State School Improvement Resource Center. So now I've just told ChatGPT, before you go out and look at the junk on the web, come to this known source first. Second, I said, I'm also a special education teacher and I want to make sure I have high leverage practices or evidence-based practices, or even something from the What Works Clearinghouse. All of those are great standards. They have evidence base in them. They're highly researched. You can send it to wherever you like that is a known resource. So here's the National Center on High Leverage Practices. I said, I want you to take information from here. From there, all you have to do is say, great, create it, configure, and it fills out all of this information. And as soon as you have it ready to go, you can start chatting with a customized GPT, making lessons, making all sorts of wonderful things that are tailored to whatever your needs are. And so as a power user myself, I have a lot of different custom GPTs for finance, for my organization, for HR issues, for helping create 504 plans for my son who's a type 1 diabetic and making sure we have the right accommodations. I will warn you, don't share personalized information. Make it generic. That way you'll cover all your bases. How have you used GPTs in the past? And what are the limitations of those systems? What errors have you run into? I'm open to your questions first, and then I'll have you guys talk amongst yourselves. I scared him. Sean.
Hey, Trey, the chatbot ability for us to customize our own bots. Great what we want. Could you talk about that and what now currently able to do, but the near future, our ability to really personalize it for our own needs?
So the question is, how do I leverage that customization? What can it do now and what can it potentially do in the future? So right now, you have the ability to upload specific documents. So if you have a handbook, for example, or known standards for your particular content area, or even for your department, you can upload those documents and have it reference that information first. In the future, as we get more sophisticated with Python language learning, you can connect multiple sources of data that come from what we call repositories of data. So like APCs and stuff like that. And that's really technical stuff. But essentially what you do is you write program code to get back-end access to databases. Pull that all together to your one custom GPT, so you don't have to go back to multiple sources over and over and over to look for some information that you may want to synthesize later on. One of the great tools that we've done with the district lately is in Connecticut, where we had a special education director that had to create a budget for her group for the next year. Normally it took her about 3 months to do this, to pull all the information together. We were able to do it in 2 hours. And the way we were able to do it in 2 hours is by taking all those files, those uploaded databases, put them in, ask questions. The longest thing that took for us to do was reconcile the tables to make sure that the data sources were accurate. But once we did that, we could answer all of our questions that she needed to create our budget in 2 hours, which is fantastic.
So something that I'm doing this summer is creating, in my school, we have lots of different curricula being used. And so I work with middle school students, math, and there are some lessons created with this particular curriculum, but there is a bit of a language barrier. Not all students prefer the voice, et cetera. And so, not that they'll prefer my voice any better, but I'm charged with this idea of making a lesson by lesson, quick little videos of content. And so I was saying to my son, I wonder, if I fed ChatGPT all these pages from the book, hence, would that be a copyright, issue? Number one, but number two, how to use ChatGPT to say, formulate a lesson for a student who likes learning blah, blah, about such and such. So it's personalized to them in their grandpa's voice or something, so then it's really adoring to them as well. And I just said, I wonder if that could be done.
Yes, so I have a student who just finished a dissertation. He was in math, middle school math actually, and he said, most kids, they disengage from math because it's not relatable to what they like. And so his hope with his chatbot was to identify content that they are interested in. So for example, are you interested in the Avengers of some sort? Then it would feed that information into the chatbot and then said, okay, we're going to work on polynomials. And I want you to create a story based on the Avengers using polynomials to answer the next series of questions that I want you to have answers to. And so that's a great way to do it. He had excellent success getting not only high engagement, but high quality outcomes for knowledge. I've been told this is the last question.
Similarly, something that I feel special educators and their administrators spend days doing is like creating a schedule where we service all of these students. And so I was wondering if you are aware or have experience with school systems using this technology in that way,
Yeah,
because that would
exactly.
be like a game changer.
Yes, so that's the next iteration of the Connecticut conversation that we did. So the first part was creating the national budget, but to get the budget, we pulled in all of the hours necessary for related service providers. We also looked at curriculum course offerings for different levels at the high school. We were at the high school at that particular moment, and we were able to then exactly demonstrate where that schedule could be falling out best. But then once that schedule is prepared, you're always going to get individual choices, which then ruins your initial plan. Great. Well, thank you so much, and table talk.
All right. Good morning. I'm not Dr. Ginsberg. He just had to step out really quickly, so I'm fortunate to make the next introduction. My name really quickly is Jennifer Besselow. I work at KU as the coordinator and professor of practice for the master's and doctorate educational administration programs. And I am fortunate to introduce the next speaker, who is a student with us. I may just be the proud aunt, but she needs no other accolades. She brings her own resume. So a quick introduction of Rylee Robles. Rylee Robles is a senior at Los Alamitos High School. She just graduated, and she is honored, or she will be graduating. She is honored to serve as an Orange County Pathway Ambassador at her school. She serves as the president founder of the Engineering Society, a student-led club dedicated to providing an innovative and inclusive environment for all students interested in STEM. Rylee is fascinated by storytelling. She loves finding ways to utilize AI to create characters where everyone can see themselves represented in the story. One of Rylee's career goals is to work for Disney Imagineering and build animatronics and ride systems. She also loves exploring the power of movies and films. Her favorite movies include Barbie, Up, Avengers, Endgame, and La La Land. One of her other passions is music, and although she cannot make music herself, she loves listening to it. Music that brings Rylee joy is swing jazz and K-pop. Rylee's favorite song is It's Been a Long, Long Time by Harry James, and her favorite K-pop group is Stray Kids. welcome Rylee.
Hello. Is my audio okay? Can you hear me?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that introduction. I'm Rylee Robles. I'm a senior at Los Alamitos High School for about one more day. Tomorrow's our last day of school for seniors, so I'm very excited about that. But as my aunt said, I am an OC Pathway ambassador for my high school. I'm in the engineering pathway, and so OC Pathways is all different high schools throughout the Orange County Department of Education. And we work with different schools and we have all these different pathways. So career technical education, which is CTE. And so I'm in the engineering one, but I have friends in the computer science, in the film, agriculture. So it's a really cool program that brings us all together to work on projects. In addition to OC Pathways, there's also a FANCY network, which is an acronym that stands for our AI network. And so that was my initial step into AI, and I was really excited to learn just more about the possibilities of it. And so through that, I was able to get an internship with the OCDE to work on their AI team and to be the audio engineer on their AI podcast, which was really, really fun. I'm excited that in the fall, I will be attending University of San Diego to major in mechanical engineering and minor in Japanese. So I'm really excited for that next chapter of my life. But I'm just so grateful and thankful to be here with you all on Zoom and to just be able to share my opinion as a student because I'm very grateful that you as educators would want to listen to someone like me. So thank you. I will go ahead and go to my first slide. So I have a few visual bullet points on here. I have a AI resume that I created as well as an interview, and I'll go more in depth onto what each of these pictures are. And the two on the right are two slideshows and presentations that I made at AI convenings. The top one is geared towards elementary to high school students. So this was a Toy Story themed one because I love Disney. So I wanted to put a little bit of fun whimsy in there. And then the one below that is the same exact presentation with the same information, but geared towards educators. So we did two different conferences with two different audiences. So it was really cool to see the difference when addressing students and when addressing educators. But I'll go ahead and get started with the first bullet point. So I started my AI journey with Claude, which is a free generative AI program that I have fallen in love with because it's just very easy to use. It's free. As long as you have an email, you can sign up. But what I was really interested in doing is storytelling. So I was not the best writer, and I actually didn't love reading other than Harry Potter and Hunger Games and fictional worlds like that. And so I wanted to create stories that I would be really interested in. And what I noticed is it actually made me want to read more because I could create a story within seconds with the help of AI. I was wanting to know what's next. And I can ask AI specifically for what I was interested in to take the story in that direction. So I was thinking if I could create these different stories with worlds that already existed, could I put myself in those worlds? And so I started to describe myself as a character in one of these shows or movies or books. And I would describe my interests, my hobbies, what I looked like. I have brown hair, brown eyes. This is my name. Can you put me into a Marvel superhero movie? Because one of my favorite movies is Avengers Endgame. And that's a place I hadn't seen myself in very much before as a female Hispanic, someone who's trying to pursue engineering. And so it was really cool to see within seconds that I could be placed in these stories and to see my name alongside all the other characters because the AI has all of the information on all the books, all the movies. It was really, really powerful to see myself in the media where otherwise I might not have. So I did the same thing with Harry Potter too. I wanted to be a wizard, and so I did that as well. But then I started to think, if I could use AI to see myself in stories, can I also see myself in a future career? So this is where I started to switch it into more of a educational aspect, where I was also invited to speak at a AI convening. It was part of our Fancy and OC Pathways projects. So that's where I created the 2 presentations. The first one was our one for elementary to high school students, and that's the Toy Story themed one. But I was thinking, how can we change this into more of an academic assignment or project? And so that's where I came up with this idea. I was also during the time where I was trying to create my resume to apply for jobs and scholarships in colleges. And so I thought, if I could look at a future career, could I also create a resume for myself, and maybe one from 20 years in the future? And so that's the resume I have here. So I inputted into Claude all my different classes that I was taking, what I was interested in doing, my hobbies, and then where I wanted to end up, which is Disney Imagineering. And so I put all of that in the AI, I sent it off, and I said, this is my name. Can you please create a resume for me in 20 years? And it gave me all of these different jobs that I would have had in my career journey. So I started as an animatronic engineer, and then it said I went to a ride system engineer for Disney Imagineering, and I ended as a senior Imagineer for audio animatronics ride systems for Disney Imagineering. And it also gave me some different degrees that I could have earned, some different awards and skills and memberships that I would have been a part of. And I thought this was really powerful to see what my future could look like on a piece of paper right now. And so I took that information, and since I was creating a presentation, I was like, okay, let me put this into a template of an actual resume. And so I used Canva, which is another free resource, and they have a ton of different templates for anything you can imagine. And so I put all that information into a resume template, and I really, really liked how it turned out. And I thought, this is really powerful that I can see my future right now. I also thought resumes usually have pictures as well, or headshots of the person that's writing them. And so also in Canva, I asked it to create a small little resume headshot in their image generator. I described what I looked like, and I said, please have the background be a professional engineering lab. And I put that in, and it made a ton of different pictures, and I could pick my favorite one and drag and drop it in. And then I have this full resume of myself in 20 years, which is really cool with the power of AI. And then in addition to that, I was really interested to see if I could have dialogue between myself and my future self. So that's what the middle picture is. That's an interview with myself in 20 years as an engineer. And so I put all the information. Because this was on Canva, I could download my resume as a PDF and actually attach it to Claude as an attachment and upload it. And then I was able to say, can you write an interview between myself right now and myself in 20 years? And you can answer these questions, or Claude will come up with some questions for you. And I sent it off, and I could read this conversation between myself and my future self, which was even more powerful than just having the resume by itself, because now Claude has this, if it's on the same thread, you can have the same conversation as if you were in real life, because it has all of this background knowledge, because you've attached your resume, you've asked it questions already. Now I can ask whatever I want. I can say, what was a challenge that you faced in your job, and how did you overcome it? What's your favorite project been so far? You could ask endless possibilities of it. And so it was really, really cool to be able to kind of have this advice from my future self through AI. It was really incredible. And then when creating these presentations, since we had a large group of people and we wanted to showcase everyone in our character that we were creating, we had the group of students and the group of educators collectively create a character. So we had different questions. It was, what's your favorite hobby? What is our character's favorite movie? What's their goals? What is something they're interested in? And we just had different people shout out different ideas, so that way everyone in the classroom could see themselves in this character. And if this were an assignment in a classroom, it could be possibly students doing it based on themselves, or you can do a group setting like we did. But it was really cool to see within seconds how our entire group could create this character and then have this entire story following everything that we had said. And I have a character that we created. I remember from the first PowerPoint and our slide presentation, we put our character as a superhero and we put them into the Marvel universe. And I think someone had the idea of our character being interested in the culinary field. And then we asked it to be a superhero. So I think the character was Cheese Whiz, and they had cheese superpowers, which was really funny. But yeah, so this project and this idea of having a conversation with your future self in AI, to me, was really powerful. And the most meaningful part for me was seeing myself in stories that I hadn't seen before, as well as in a really unique way. It was helping with my communication skills because I would have to ask AI specific questions. And I had to, if I didn't totally love an answer, I had to see if I could come up with constructive feedback that led the AI into the direction that I was hoping to go with. And so even in my engineering classes, it has been super helpful because I've practiced with asking questions and giving feedback. And so it's been really, really helpful in that way, which I didn't expect at all, similar to how it made me want to read more, actually. And my greatest hope would be that with assignments like this, assignments that are designed for AI instead of students just using AI, would be that we can build trust with students and educators in this field of AI. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to my EduTalk, and I hope you enjoyed.
So Rylee, thank you. If you don't mind, we're going to see if some people have questions for you for about 5 minutes, and then we have some questions that we want to have the tables discuss, and we'll thank you. And I love when we're sitting here learning from the students, don't you? I think it's great. Questions for Rylee? We've got one right over here.
Thank you so much for all that information. And I was particularly interested by one of your final comments about the importance of trust between you as a student and your teachers. So I was wondering, from your perspective as a student, what would be really helpful for teachers to do to help establish that trust that you said is so necessary in this approaching world of AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as a student who, especially right now, a lot of my teachers are actually saying, do not use AI, you will get a 0. And I think that kind of makes me feel like we won't be prepared for the future because AI isn't going to go away. And I think we need to learn how to use AI as a tool, like a calculator. You need to know what to input in order to be able to use it. And I think to build trust is also to create assignments where we're using AI and where the assignment is designed to use AI instead of students possibly going behind the teacher's back and using it to cheat, or teachers directly saying, do not use it at all. I think we need to incorporate it like a calculator and kind of create this safe space where students don't feel like they're cheating if they use it, or don't feel like they will be reprimanded if they're using it in a way that is not cheating. So I hope that helps answer your question. But that's a good question. I think I'll continue to think about it even when I go to college as well, as see where in the future we go with the relationship between teachers and students with AI.
Great answer. Other questions?
Is there a place where we can watch the Toy Story AI that you made? Because the QR code's very small.
Yes, yeah. And that QR code is only for the educator version, but I can also see if I can send the PowerPoint for the Toy Story one, as well as I think I documented our whole story. So I can find a way to share that with the university and share that with my aunt and see if I can get that PowerPoint to everyone.
I think we got time for one more question. Anyone? Rylee, I think you wowed them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. You're an inspiration, I think, to our teachers out here. And I want you all to understand that Rylee is wonderful, but what we're learning in the schools we're working with is that the students will always amaze you if you give them that opportunity. So Rylee, thank you for representing all the students so well.
Thank you so much for having me. This is truly an honor.
Okay, we're going to allow the tables now to have some conversation. Can somebody, Jeannie, or flip to the questions, and then we'll in about 10 minutes we'll move on to the next speaker. Our next, I am, yeah. Our next speaker is Heather Campbell, who is a math teacher, a track coach, and an NHS and FCA sponsor at Bonner Springs High School. We've been working with Bonner Springs through our center now for a little bit over a year, and she has been kind of leading the charge of an incredible group of teachers and leaders at that school on the efforts we're undertaking to reimagine their work. One of the things I love about Heather is she has, this is kind of sparked some excitement in her, and her work sparked excitement in all of us. And I was in Chicago with my youngest son and my wife driving to visit some more of my family. And I get this email message that Heather had sent to one of our colleagues, to Megan Turpin, about she created a song about our center. And it was like, what? And said, yeah, you should listen to this. So I called it up while I pulled over to the side, I promise. And I pulled it up. And what she had done is there's this program that that Maggie had shared with her called Suno, that if you download information to it, it will create a song. And what Heather did, and she's going to talk about this afternoon, is downloaded stuff about our center and downloaded what all the three of the schools, it's schools from Bonner Springs, Piper, and Lansing, had been doing in our center, and it wrote a song. I dare say I wish you hadn't chosen country and western and Garth Brooks style, but she did, and it is unbelievable. I mean, I grew up watching Johnny Carson and always wanted a theme song, and thanks to Heather Campbell, Rick Ginsberg now has a theme song. I thank you so much. Heather Campbell, everybody, she's great.
Wow. Getting to go fourth is supposed to calm my nerves, but following those two, and then Rylee, I got to hear Rylee out in California. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but this is incredible. So here's my journey. I know he asked earlier about how many people have used AI, and a lot of you raised your hand, but for me, it started 12 months ago. So hopefully I can inspire you again, to refresh your excitement about AI and what we can do. So here we go. 12 months ago, if you had asked me about AI, I would have shrugged my shoulders and probably said, well, I know it's helpful to write a paper, and I know students are going to cheat using it. I might have even said that it could control the world someday. We saw the movie I, Robot, right? But today, AI feels a little less like science fiction and a lot more like a secret weapon I didn't even know I had access to, and one I can't help but share. Getting super excited, but I can't help but not share it to anybody I meet. You see, when I started asking AI questions this past year, it wasn't not replacing my thoughts or my ideas, it was amplifying them. Let me tell you what I mean. Recently, I asked AI, and I learned I don't have to say please anymore. I just say it. Give me 10 practice problems about solving linear equations that would be relevant. Key word there, I added the word relevant for my 9th grade students living in the Midwest. I even asked that it make an adjustment and add a fraction to that last question. And then I asked for the answer key, of course. But writing and solving equations about video game achievements and getting to the next level had my students, as they would say, locked in. Was it silly? Maybe, but it worked. And for the first time that week, I had students that were a little bit more engaged. They were willing to work a little bit harder than the problems that were from the textbook about these magic rocks from the garden. That wasn't AI replacing me. That was AI helping me become more me. A teacher who sees her students. I'm a teacher who tries to help them understand, and a teacher who wanted better questions. Could I have asked and written out these questions myself? And have I done that exact same thing years past? But now I don't have to. The more I work with AI, the more I realize it's not about replacing teachers. It's more about giving us superpowers. And yet I do not have any superpowers yet. I can't fly, and I'm not invisible, although that would be really helpful if I was just invisible up here and you all just heard me talk. As I am a little nervous, but today I'm standing here, an ordinary high school math teacher from Kansas who got the opportunity to be a part of something really special. And as I share my journey this morning, I hope I can inspire you to step out of your own comfort zone and be brave to try something new. Have you ever heard the saying, it's not what you know, but who you know? Well, that's how my journey got started, because this guy at KU had a really good relationship with my superintendent. And anybody who's a superintendent who's as good as mine, if he has a friend, I want to be his friend too. So here I am. However, the backside of that comment concerning what I do know now has also changed the direction of my classroom forever. I can't imagine where I would be if the people I met here in the past year had not crossed my path, like Maggie and Megan and Rick and people from Piper as well. I met new friends and I was given an overabundance of opportunity, like a fire hydrant, wishing at me in November. And I just kept coming. But the tools that they were giving me, the stuff that Maggie was telling us, was stuff that I could go and use the very next day. They made me start thinking about the what ifs in education, that reimagining part. You see, teachers have always used tools, overhead projectors, online gradebooks, and even Zoom when we had to, we had no choice. We've adapted before, and we will again. But AI isn't just any tool. It's the smartest one we've already had access to. And as they pointed out, it's dumb and it's gonna get smarter. Talk about adapting. Thanks to this new connection with KU's CRE team, this small town girl from Kansas was given the opportunity to travel to sunny California, and I met Rylee the end of February at the AI K-12 Deeper Learning Summit. To be honest, I rubbed shoulders with the best minds in innovation. Literally the person who invented brisk teaching, for those of you who have used it. I was like right next to him. People I had no business being in the same room with. And it was there, surrounded by these tech enthusiasts and change makers, I was reminded of something that I had forgotten. You don't have to be extraordinary to do extraordinary things. You just have to say yes to learning, yes to trying, yes to growing, even when it feels uncomfortable. You simply have to be brave. You see, for me though, brave isn't just any word. It's very personal. For the past 21 years, I've had the privilege to work for a school district whose mascot is actually the Braves, representing the brave warriors of the Indian village named Tiblo. Why am I getting checked up? It's fun. I've been there a long time. But almost every day you'll hear someone in the building say the very thing I want to challenge each of you with. It's a great day to be brave. The California trip also sparked something unexpected. I wrote something personal for the first time in a long time. I have never, ever considered myself a writer. I am a math teacher. But with AI's help, I turned my ideas into words, and that actually sounded like me. For the past decade, my email signature was a quote from Gandhi. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And I was ready for a change, ready for something new that reflected where I am now in this AI educational world. So after some back and forth with ChatGPT, refining, revising, rethinking, I landed on the following. AI is powerful and will solve problems, but the future is shaped with kindness and curiosity. It's a quote I now call my own. It's at the end of every email I send, and one that I truly believe in. That is just one personal example, but I'm here to say that even using AI in the English or writing classroom can be impactful. I was inputting my own ideas into that quote. It was a cycle of back and forth, going from an earlier division to start over and make adjustments before landing on a thought and something I was happy with. But we have to do better. Nobody in this room can demonstrate how our students can copy and paste that first response. But we have to do better. Nobody in this room wants humans acting as robots. We need more young people using their resources like AI, thinking critically, deciphering what they just read, analyzing it, then deciding what their response will be. Wanting and getting students to think and share their own ideas is not a new concept. I do believe that for those students who were like me, who may not have the confidence to write on their own, they can now be given a personal chatbot, an AI tutor, a sounding board to bounce ideas off back and forth before they come to their final product. And I'm definitely on board to watch that process grow with my students and my own children. You know what's wild? When I started teaching a long time ago, if a student wanted to research something, they had to wait until we could get to the library. Now they can ask their phone and get an answer in seconds. What is even cooler? When I got asked the age-old question, when am I ever going to use this? I literally opened up an AI tool. We could actually get personalized, relevant answers based on the topic and what that student is interested in for a possible job. That's the speed we're talking about. The gap between a student's question and a meaningful answer has gone from days into seconds. And as their teacher, I get to be part of that moment. Instead of scrambling later, giving myself a sticky note, go find out how you can actually use this in real life. When you look at how fast things are evolving, it reminds me of just how far we've come. I don't know about you, when I was in high school, my calculus teacher told me You better memorize all these formulas because you're not going to have a calculator in your back pocket every time you go. And technically, he was right. I do not carry my graphing calculator around anymore. Instead, I carry something even more powerful, a smartphone, mini computer. Basically, calculator, camera, an entire library, map, and weather channel, all in one. The future is sneaking up fast. No doubt that change is coming, and we are preparing our students for a world and careers that don't even exist. And speaking of change, let's talk about travel for a second. When I was a kid, when you got hot in the back seat, you had to roll down your window, literally cranking it down. It was slow, clunky, and sometimes it would get stuck. Now, you push a button, automatic. During my trip to California, we were able to do some sightseeing. Saw the Hollywood Star, the Hollywood sign. And while driving my rental car, yes, I was driving in LA, I was passed by several Waymo vehicles. They do not have them in Kansas City yet, maybe someday. But they are self-driving cars. They were cruising down the road like it was no big deal. Meanwhile, I was literally trying to figure out which of the 6 lanes I needed to be in for my exit. But I couldn't help but think, education has been on a similar journey. For years, we were rolling down the window manually for every single student, trying to personalize and differentiate for each of them. That came with technology. Online practice, good. Instant feedback, even better. Very similar to pushing that automatic window button. But with AI, it can take us even further. We can dream bigger. But if we become the navigators, helping each student chart their own course and get to their own educational destination. I am still learning, but someday, this is my first year, I hope you can walk into my classroom where students are designing projects that they have passion about. Maybe writing a podcast, a topic that we have covered, or creating a math game for a review. As a teacher, I get to move freely around the room, not tied to grading papers or writing those questions anymore, but actually coaching creativity, asking the big questions and celebrating the progress of every single one of them. AI will never replace teachers, but it will free us up, do the things that only humans can do. Inspire, we can encourage, and love. Because no matter how advanced technology becomes, students will always need us. So if you're sitting there wondering, where do you fit in this AI future educational world? The answer is simple. Right in the middle of it. It literally is happening right now, every day. You don't have to be a tech genius because I'm not. You don't have to be perfect. Again, not me, but you have to be willing to start. You have to be willing to be brave. So here's my invitation to you. Don't wait for someone to certify you as ready. Don't wait for permission or when you feel ready, because honestly, that's never going to happen. Change is hard. There will be pushback, but we can become teachers to impact lives and build relationships with kids, even when things are hard. So why would we not take on this new challenge? We don't have to overhaul your whole practice overnight. It will be as simple as trying to prompt into ChatGPT. Literally, I downloaded it this past fall. This is my start. Or any of the other apps that are out there now, just to see what tomorrow's lesson might say. Then ask how you can make it more relevant for you and your students. Let your curiosity lead you with follow-up questions. You might be pleasantly surprised what AI can generate on your behalf. The important thing is to start. Start now, ask questions, play, experiment, create. The future of education is about people like you and me who are brave enough to lead with curiosity and heart and imagination. A year ago, crazy. A year ago, I jokingly might have said AI is going to take on the world, but today I know better and I'm excited what the future holds. Yes, AI is powerful, but it's just a tool. The real power is you and what you do with it. Because today, tomorrow, and every day, it's a great day to be brave. Any questions? I may not have the answers. I'm going to have to refer to the experts, but any questions?
I was struck that you also coach, is it track?
Yeah, I'm leaving for the state track meet here in a couple hours.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. One thing that I want to see among my students, and I want to know where they're coming from. I want to know how they're growing. How do you draw parallels between the artificial intelligence and then the work, the physical developed change that comes in track, because I want to somehow cultivate or leave an impression that academically students need to transform themselves when using AI. And I'm here as a real newbie, an old school marm. So I really am asking that. What are the parallels that you see as potential?
I think that, well, with track, and I love the coaching analogy, and I've used it since day one, being an athlete for a long time myself, is the idea of muscle memory. And it's just have to get used to it. So even now, so I learned from Maggie, and that was November. And then I was still going to Google or other things. And I was like, no, wait, I have this tool that I can use. And I think that once I started using it more and more, then it just became natural for me to use it. And now I can start putting it into my students' hands. Like, hey, you're wondering about this? Let's go ask AI. Let's go look at the all of the information that's out there and get some better answers. But it's definitely is a learning curve for us, and then to pass that on to teaching our kids how to use it. Because to be honest, otherwise they're just going to copy and paste. Like that's natural, but like, what if? Like, ask those questions. How can they expand on that beginning first response of something?
Heather, thanks for your presentation. I know you come from a great school district. But has it come up yet within your school district about AI and impact on state assessments, scores?
Absolutely. The scores are everything is, we're always going to be drawn back to how they score on a test. And until we change the test, then we're going to always be, that's going to be our benchmark thing. I think that we've used at our school, we started using AI and chat boxes to prepare them for that test. Almost like a personal tutor that they could, this is the goal, this is what we're trying to get to, and depending on who the kid was, how they could answer those questions and kind of lead them so that hopefully we will increase our scores, but it's a process.
Rick,
And it
we have
takes
one
time.
more here.
Hi, I was just wondering if you've explored many ethical limitations of AI in your school already. I mean, you're already using it, because it should be, I mean, theoretically it's unlimited. So what kind of limitations do you put on AI usage?
We are looking at this summer actually about having some type of plan like in our handbook for this coming school year. I asked a question in a survey. We have this Brave Time, and one of the questions was, how many of you students use AI? And a lot of them did not say yes, because they were thought that it was a got you opportunity. And I had to tell them, I'm not trying to get you. I'm trying to figure out who is using it and how we can best use it. We started offering some short classes called AI hacks, like telling them, like, we want you to start using this. We want you to. So anyway, but then I also asked them, what AI tools have you used, as a follow-up question? And a lot of them put in, they were using Canva and things like that were AI. So then to get a better perspective, I went back and changed their no answer to a yes, because I'm like, you are definitely using AI. So, but it's definitely changing. We'll see what happens, because I think and that's the thing when I say that we're in the middle of it, because we really don't know what's happening. If we wait too long, like, it's exponentially happening right now as far as usage and things like that.
Let's give Heather another round of applause. Heather, you did great. You did great. At KU, we're struggling with it. The university's struggling with it too. And right now we're really into disclosure on the student part. But I love what Rylee said. We got to figure out how to use lessons where they do use it and how to do that. A quick ethical, personal thing, and then I'll let you guys start answering, play with those questions. It was my 31st wedding anniversary, and I thought, my wife is a former English teacher and teaches children's literature and all that stuff now. And I thought, okay, I'm going to really wow her this year. I bought her a card, and I asked ChatGPT to write me a sonnet, Shakespearean style, about my beautiful wife with the blue eyes. And it wrote this lovely sonnet, and I wrote it in the card. I said, I've been thinking about you all these 30 some odd years. And she's reading the card. She looked at it and her eyebrow went up like this and she said, ChatGPT? And I said, well, yeah. So I was screwed initially. There's the ethical side of it. Then she said to me, you know, it made a mistake. I said, what? And because ChatGPT is based on what's on the internet, and a lot of sonnets have different styles, and English sonnets have a different kind of ending. And she said the last two lines are wrong. ChatGPT didn't realize how Shakespearean sonnets are different than other sonnets. So lots of messages there from Rick absolutely ruining his 31st wedding anniversary. So take a couple of minutes, folks, and play with these questions at your table. And I think after this, 10 minutes, and then we'll have a break and move to lunch. And then Randy Watson will be joining us, and we'll hear from the state commissioner. Thanks to all the speakers this morning. Let's give them a big round of applause. They were great.